They're not just here to destroy us. They're here to erase the very memory of our existence. The commander's voice cracked through the static of the emergency broadcast, his face dimly lit by the flickering red glow of an overloaded control console. Behind him, chaos reigned. Sparks showered from ruptured cables, and the hollow wail of distant alarms underscored his every word. Outside the reinforced viewport, the skies of Velen III, once vibrant and serene, burned with the brilliance of orbital bombardment. What could drive a civilization to such brutal efficiency? What vengeance could justify this annihilation? How do you fight an enemy that doesn't seek conquest but eradication? His eyes, bloodshot and unyielding, bore into the camera. And how do you prepare for a war when your enemy is willing to sacrifice entire fleets to secure a single resource? The commander leaned closer, as though forcing the audience to confront these chilling truths. You don't. You survive. Or you die. The commander drew a trembling breath, his fingers hovering over the worn keys of the comm station. This is Commander Rylan Voss, transmitting what will likely be my final message. Velen III, our sanctuary, our hope, is under siege by the Zhorath Swarm. They came without warning, without declaration, and without mercy. In less than 2 hours, they've reduced our planetary defenses to ash. Their weapons, far beyond anything Earth Command ever warned us about. They don't just destroy, they incinerate, leaving no trace of what was. Through the viewport, the fiery silhouette of a fallen colony loomed, a city swallowed in molten ruin. The faint outlines of escape pods scattered across the void like fireflies, some intercepted by enemy ships before they could even ignite their thrusters. We came here to build a future. We didn't realize we'd claimed a lifeline for an entire galaxy, a lifeline they'll stop at nothing to reclaim. Earth, if you're hearing this, prepare for war. The recording flickered, static briefly overtaking the feed, before Commander Rylan Voss reappeared. His face was pale, streaked with soot, and his uniform bore the burns and tears of recent combat. The screams in the background had quieted, replaced by the haunting hum of emergency klaxons echoing through the hollow corridors of the command bunker. We underestimated them, Voss admitted, his voice hoarse but steady. Our orbital defenses, planetary shields, they were nothing more than paper walls to the Zhorath Swarm. Their ships moved like predators, weaving through the chaos, targeting us with precision I've never seen. In less than an hour, they severed every lifeline we had to Earth Command. No reinforcements are coming. We are on our own. The commander paused, his eyes darting to a distant monitor that displayed real-time footage of Velen III's surface. Cities were crumbling under relentless bombardment. The lush, mineral-rich plains that had drawn humanity to this world were now scarred with molten craters. We thought Velen III was our salvation, he continued, gesturing weakly at the image of the burning planet. Its resources were supposed to fuel a new era for humanity. The rare ores beneath its surface, more valuable than anything left in the Sol system, could have built fleets, stabilized economies, even extended the frontier further into the galaxy. But we weren't the first to lay claim to this world. A sudden tremor shook the room, cutting him off. Dust rained from above, and a distant explosion caused the lights to flicker. Voss steadied himself against the console and stared directly into the camera. The Zhorath didn't come here by accident, he said, his voice lowering. They consider this planet theirs. To them, we're nothing more than thieves stripping their lifeblood, and they have no intention of letting us leave alive. For a brief moment, his composure cracked. He turned away, muttering under his breath before facing the camera again. Earth, if you're listening, this isn't just about us anymore. If they destroy Velen III, they'll come for you next. Before we dive deeper into this harrowing story of survival and resistance, don't forget to show your support by liking this video and subscribing to our channel. Stay with us as we uncover Commander Voss's desperate struggle against an enemy determined to destroy everything we've built. Every like, comment, and subscription helps us share these epic tales of courage and defiance with more viewers like you. The feed trembled again, the image briefly cutting to black before returning. Commander Voss's face was lit by the eerie glow of warning lights, his expression carved with exhaustion. He tightened his grip on the console, the tension in his voice sharpening. "They've begun targeting the evacuation points," he said grimly. "We tried to get civilians to the orbital shuttles, but the Zhorath were ready. Their smaller craft intercepted us before we could even clear the atmosphere. Thousands of lives gone in seconds." His voice faltered, but he pushed through, clinging to his duty. Behind him, a map of Valen 3 flickered on a cracked monitor. Red indicators dotted the surface, each one a site of destruction. The once thriving colony, built to house millions, was being methodically dismantled. "We've confirmed their strategy," Voss continued, glancing at a subordinate off-screen. "They're not just wiping us out, they're reclaiming the planet, their ground. Forces have begun deploying. They're harvesting the very soil, stripping it of the resources we barely managed to tap into." The commander leaned closer, his voice dropping to a strained whisper. "These aren't mindless destroyers. The Zhorath Swarm operates with surgical precision. They dismantle infrastructure as efficiently as they destroy lives. They're clearing Valen 3 to the bedrock, leaving nothing for anyone else. It's not just a warning to humanity, it's a declaration of dominance." Suddenly, the building shook violently, throwing Voss off balance. Shouts erupted in the background, and the camera tilted as the operator adjusted to the tremor. Voss scrambled back into frame, his breath heavy. "They're breaching the lower levels," he said quickly. "We're losing ground faster than we can fortify it. I don't know how much time we have left, but I'll keep this line open. For as long as I can. Earth, you must prepare. Study this footage, learn from our mistakes, and..." An explosion erupted in the distance, cutting his sentence short. The screen crackled, the audio filling with static. Voss's strained voice emerged once more. "Survive! Fight! They're coming for all of us." The screen flickered violently, the image barely stabilizing as Commander Voss reappeared. His face was smeared with blood now, a gash on his temple leaking onto his torn uniform. His breathing was labored, and the distant echo of gunfire and explosions painted a grim backdrop. "They've breached the command bunker," Voss said, his tone raw but defiant. "Our last defensive line is crumbling. The Zhorath ground forces, if you can even call them that, are unlike anything we've faced before. They're fast, adaptable, machines of flesh and steel, swarming through corridors like a plague." He paused, gripping the edge of the console as the room shook again. The lights above flickered, casting long shadows across the shattered equipment. His gaze shifted to the left, where the faint blue glow of a holographic map flickered on the wall. "They're not just taking the resources, they're taking us," he said, his voice thick with bitterness. "Their ground troops are equipped with containment devices, massive pods designed to capture and transport human survivors. For what purpose? Slavery, experimentation, or something worse?" His eyes met the camera, his stare hard and unwavering. "If you think they'll stop with Valen 3, you're fooling yourselves. This is only the beginning. They're testing us, breaking us piece by piece to see how far we'll bend before we snap." Another explosion rocked the bunker, the camera shaking as a cascade of debris rained down behind Voss. A distant scream echoed through the hallways, sharp and sudden, before cutting off. The commander glanced back, his jaw tightening, then returned his focus to the recording. "This message isn't just for Earth," he said, his tone hardening. "It's for anyone out there, any colony, any ship, anyone listening. If humanity doesn't unite, if we don't learn to fight back together, then the Zhorath will consume us all. Valen 3 is proof of that." The room shook violently once more, the screen tilting as the camera operator stumbled. Voss shouted over the chaos, Remember this, we are not prey, not yet. The transmission cut abruptly to static. The feed returned, but this time it was different. The camera was no longer stable, its angle tilted as if it had been knocked loose. Smoke filled the room, curling around the dim emergency lights. Commander Voss stood hunched over the console, one arm clutching his side, blood seeping through his fingers. "If you're still receiving this," he began, his voice a strained rasp, "then you're seeing the final moments of Rylan 3. He straightened with effort, his gaze burning despite the pain. "The Zhorath, they're everywhere now. No corner of the planet is untouched. They've swept across the colonies, through the mines, the cities, like a wildfire. And what they leave behind..." He trailed off, his expression hardening. "It's worse than death." The screen briefly flickered to a live feed from a drone. It showed rows of the containment pods he had described earlier, their metallic shells pulsing faintly with an ominous blue light. Inside each pod, the faint silhouettes of human forms could be seen, motionless. A single Zhorath drone passed through the rows, inspecting them with precise mechanical movements. "They don't just want resources," Voss continued, his voice trembling with fury. "They want us. They're harvesting our people alongside the planet. Their technology is incomprehensible. Every prisoner they take becomes part of their swarm, stripped of will, turned into a tool for their war machine. I've seen it happen." The commander's fist slammed against the console, his face contorted with anguish. "We weren't prepared for this. We didn't understand what we were up against, and now they're not just breaking us, they're turning us into them." A deafening crash interrupted him, the walls of the bunker trembling violently. A burst of sparks erupted from the console as the lights flickered once more. Voss turned toward the doorway, where shadows moved unnaturally in the smoke. "I won't let them take me," he said, his voice low but resolute. He leaned closer to the camera, his face filling the frame. "Earth, this is your warning. The Zhorath are coming, and they will not stop. Fight them, or lose everything." As the sound of approaching metallic footsteps grew louder, the feed abruptly cut to black. The feed stuttered back online, now unstable and drenched in static. The camera appeared to have been knocked to the ground, offering a skewed view of the command bunker. Fires raged in the background, casting flickering shadows across fallen debris. Amid the chaos, Commander Voss reappeared, crawling into view. His uniform was shredded, his face bloodied and pale, but his eyes burned with a fierce determination. "This is not over," he said, his voice barely above a whisper, yet unyielding. He dragged himself upright, using the broken console for support. "Rylan 3 may fall, but humanity will not." The camera's microphone crackled, picking up distant sounds. The sharp clatter of alien appendages striking metal, the distorted hum of Zhorath drones scanning the area. Voss glanced toward the noise, his jaw tightening. "I found something," he continued, his voice gaining strength. "A vulnerability. Their technology, advanced as it is, relies on a central system. Their hive mind, it's not omnipotent. It's coordinated through massive control hubs, like the one they've established here on Rylan 3. If we can disrupt it, even briefly, it will fracture their forces. It won't stop them, but it will slow them down. Give us time to fight back." The commander reached for a damaged holoprojector on the console, pulling up a hazy schematic of the Zhorath control hub. The structure loomed, alien and foreboding, its intricate design pulsing with energy. "I can see it from here," Voss said, gesturing toward the viewport. In the distance, the silhouette of the control hub dominated the horizon, surrounded by a swarm of Zhorath drones. "It's heavily guarded, but it's the key. If I can get close enough, I might be able to overload it, even if it costs me everything." Another tremor rocked the bunker, and the sound of approaching Zhorath. Forces grew louder. Voss turned back to the camera, his expression steely. "Earth, if you're listening, tell my family I did everything I could, and remember this. They can be hurt, They can be stopped. Velen 3 won't be the last stand. It will be the beginning of the fight. The screen blurred, cutting to static once more. The feed sputtered back, shaky and disoriented. The lens cracked from whatever violence had knocked it to the ground. The bunker was no longer recognizable. Flames licked at the edges of the frame, casting an orange glow over the twisted metal. And debris. Commander Voss staggered into view, clutching a salvage plasma rifle in one hand and a jagged piece of metal in the other. "I don't know how long I have," he began, his voice raw and strained. His breaths came heavy, but his resolve was unshaken. "The Zhorath are closing in. I can hear them tearing through the lower levels. If this message reaches Earth, then you need to know. This is our chance. This is how we fight back." He knelt beside the broken console, the holographic schematic of the Zhorath control hub still flickering weakly. Voss tapped a sequence into the terminal, the display zooming in on a core structure deep within the alien base. "This is their heart," he said, pointing to the pulsating core. "The central nexus that coordinates every drone, every ship, every piece of their war machine. If we can overload it, we can break their cohesion. Even for a moment, it will buy us time. But this isn't just about Velen 3. He leaned closer to the camera, his eyes burning with intensity. "If you're hearing this, it means we've uncovered a universal truth about the Zhorath. Every hub they deploy is part of a network, spread across the stars. Cripple one, and you disrupt them all. It's the first real weakness we've found." Violent crash echoed behind him, and the distinct metallic clicking of Zhorath drones filled the air. Voss spun, firing a burst from the plasma rifle into the shadows, the muzzle flash briefly illuminating the grotesque forms of the invaders. "They're here," he hissed through gritted teeth. "I don't have much time. I'm taking the fight to the control hub. If this is the end for me, then let it be the beginning for you." He turned back to the camera, his expression resolute. "Remember, they are not invincible. Humanity will rise. Fight for Velen 3. Fight for Earth. Fight for our future." The feed cut out, leaving only the crackling static of a dying transmission. The screen came to life one last time, a faint glow amidst the chaos. The camera had been hastily repositioned, tilted slightly, revealing Commander Voss standing at the edge of a gaping breach in the bunker wall. Beyond him, the Zhorath control hub loomed in the distance, its pulsating core casting an eerie blue light across the shattered remains of Velen 3. "This is it," Voss said, his voice a mix of exhaustion and resolve. He clutched a device in his hand, a makeshift overload capacitor salvaged from the ruins. "The Nexus is within reach. The drones, the ships, their entire operation hinges on that core. If I can overload it, I can buy us time. Not just for Velen 3, but for Earth, for every colony out there." He turned, staring directly into the camera, his face illuminated by the distant glow of destruction. "This isn't about survival anymore. It's about defiance, about proving to them that humanity won't lie down and die." As Voss stepped forward, the Zhorath drones closed in, their mechanical bodies emerging from the smoke like shadows made flesh. He raised his plasma rifle, firing with deadly precision, his every move fueled by sheer determination. Each shot lit the battlefield, the shriek of collapsing drones reverberating through the air. He reached the base of the control hub, its immense structure towering above him. Alarms blared as Zhorath reinforcements swarmed from all sides. Voss didn't hesitate. He slammed the overload capacitor into the core's energy conduit, sparks flying as the device powered up. "This is for Velen 3, he whispered, his voice steady, "for every life lost, and for every life yet to be lived." The screen filled with light as the overload detonated, a wave of energy ripping through the control hub. The Zhorath forces faltered, their cohesion shattered. Ships drifted aimlessly, drones collapsed mid-motion, a hive without its queen. The feed flickered one last time. Voss's voice, faint but resolute, echoed through the static. Fight for all of us. The transmission ended, leaving only silence, a silence that marked the beginning of humanity's fight for survival. As the echoes of Commander Voss's final words fade, one truth remains. Humanity will fight, no matter the odds. If this story gripped you, if it made you feel the fire of defiance, then like this video, subscribe to our channel, and join us for more unforgettable tales of bravery and resilience. Because in the darkest moments, heroes don't just survive, they inspire. And now the question remains, what would you do when the swarm comes for you?